What I'm presenting tonight is the recommended junior senior high school proposal that has come forth from the facilities committee. And let me start out first by saying that to remind people the task of the facilities committee is to provide you with a facilities master plan. A plan, in other words, for both of our schools. And I see it as a plan over what are we going to do over the next 10 years to create facilities that are going to take us for decades to come. And so 3 major pieces have really been accomplished now with this in terms of their work. We have the demographic study that was done. Then we did the design and ed specs for the elementary. Now we have design and ed specs for the junior, senior high school. And the last piece will simply be to put this into what I call the facilities master plan, which is kind of like a summary and a game plan for what those 10 years look like. And that's something that I've started working on. I gave you an initial piece of it that we'll talk about later, which is a rough, here's a timeline of steps of warrant articles, March after March after March, as to how we may achieve those goals. And we'll get to discuss them even more. But I'm really pleased we're still on task, although in terms of getting this thing to you by sometime in December, the facilities master plan, which was our goal all along. And but we're on a tight time schedule now, but we're still on track. Educational specifications. In your packet, you have this extensive document which describes in great detail what we want, why we want it, and then the details of individual spaces and rooms and talks about properties, a whole host of things. But educational specifications are really, it's a document meant for 3 different audiences, so we have to make sure we're addressing them all. First of all, for the community. We want to communicate well with the community, what it is and why we want it, justify how we got to the number of spaces that we're seeking, and so forth. Secondly, school building authority. We certainly want to be applying for reimbursement by the state, and so they have guidelines that they've already published that say your ed specs, you need to address all of these questions. So through this document, we are addressing those questions. And lastly is for the design team. Obviously, we've had conversations all along the way with the architectural team and the civil engineer as to what we're looking for in a facility, and we're very much on the same page. But through this document, we now communicate to them even more to the things, the finer details, if you will, in what goes into actually a contract document or a bid document, so that we're specifying what we want right down to whiteboards and lockers, arrangements, a whole host of things, the appearance of the building, floor types, a whole slew of things. So it's a pretty lengthy document, and I'm not going to walk you through it, but we've gone through it as a facilities committee, and now it's for you to take a look at. One of the things you have to do is say, why do you need this building? And for us, it came in 4 areas. Enrollment growth. The projected enrollment is for modest growth for us, and we're already in a building that doesn't serve us well, so even modest growth can be a problem. It's documented in there. I believe tonight I'll be giving you enrollment for this year, and it says 509 students, and I believe it's 577 is the highest enrollment projected. But we'll get to that a bit more. Fire and life safety. Clearly we're doing this because we have fire and life safety issues in our current building, and even by correcting them, we haven't really solved all of the problems that building presents for us educationally. Because beyond that, condition of the facility, you've got accessibility issues. If you need to expand, you really can't expand on that current site. We cannot build up. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems are all outdated. So there's a terrific amount of work that would need to be done there, and even if you did all of that at the end, you wouldn't have one that really meets the educational needs, the educational program. Back in October 2004, there was an analysis done, and again, in the ed specs, there's a great amount of details about what that analysis found. How we get to people, program, and spaces. When I did this for elementary, it's very easy. It's a little more complicated when you get to middle and senior high school. What we do is we take the current program, the enrollments, the courses that we offer, we then project that forward to the larger enrollment. So right now we're working with maybe 509. I think we use data from last year, so I'm not sure. But again, it was probably around 500. And we say, okay, if everybody took courses in exactly the same way, but now there were 577 students, how many kids in a class? And through that, how many classrooms do we need? And so we go through that for both middle school and high school. As you can see there for middle school, there's one additional classroom. It's really a foreign language classroom because as we project foreign language numbers further, it showed that we couldn't do it with just the 2 classrooms that we currently have. We really needed to jump up to a third. And so we decided when we knew we were going to 3, well, let's have one that's dedicated just to middle school and put it up where the middle school classrooms are. So we did things of that sort. When you do it with the high school, same kind of a concept. You move from 12 classrooms up to 15 classrooms. Again, the highest projected enrollment is 577 students, and the building is designed to meet our future program needs. So we get to determine our program and build a building to suit our program. Here we get into a real confusing point, I think, and so I know I did this with elementary and do it again. The Department of Ed allows you to build a building that suits your program. That's not an issue. But then they go through another calculation, which is different, which is their design capacity, which says which answers these 2 questions. If every seat in every core classroom is filled, what does that look like? How many students is that? And then for a high school, it says, now what's 85%? What if 85% of those seats were filled? So in the classrooms that we're designing, they're typically designed for 25 students. But we have class sizes that are less. But again, you use this design capacity calculation that the Department of Ed requires, and you get what's called a design capacity of 695. So there's a real discrepancy there, but it's really just a calculation that they're looking for. We can accommodate our program, and clearly from the Department of Ed's perspective, we can grow to 695 students if we have to. But what that does is takes us beyond our class sizes. Build it and they will come. I don't know of any high school that hasn't encountered that. And so even though we've got these numbers of projected, we need to remember that we have students because of our facility and they choose to be educated elsewhere, who in the future world, when you've got a brand new school that's terrific right where we're locating it, students are much more likely, families much more likely to make that decision. Well, no, I don't think you're going to go there. Why don't we continue you in the Newmarket Junior Senior High School? So we have to keep that in mind, although it's a very hard thing to predict. But I've seen it in every situation that I've taken any close look at. One of the things in the ed specs are general building considerations. We talk about future needs, and we talk about the flexibility of the building to address future needs. You need to have something that is a flexible space that is easily adaptable to changes in enrollment and program. Community use of the facilities, you need to address that. The Department of Ed is looking for how this can also serve community interests. There's a considerable amount in there about these general design considerations. I'm not going to take time to read that long list, but in every place it's bullet after bullet of what are you doing for air conditioning, what are you doing for acoustics, what do you do for display areas and signage and so forth. There's language in there about green school expectations. We hope to design a building that it incorporates as many energy efficiencies as possible, so we'll even be designated as a green school. What that translates into is a higher reimbursement rate from the state. And then commissioning and training, testing out the system and training people on the new systems that are put into the building. Site considerations, obviously we need to purchase land to make this happen. I'm not sure how well known it is, but very early on when I started this process, had a conversation with the architect and with the administrator from the school building authority at the Department of Education. And he was emphatic. Building on the current site would not get his support. And the Department of Ed is an investor along with us. They're investing a significant amount of money in our project, hopefully, or anybody else's. So you have to make the investor happy that they're giving you that money. And so in other words, the investor would not be willing to invest money into rebuilding on the current site. And he was familiar with our sites. He's obviously worked with us over the years and said, if you can, parlay it with the Carpenter site, and build a building over there and then use this. He said that is your opportunity that you need to be focused on. And so we've done that, and obviously we're calling for land purchases. Other site considerations, I list them up there. Parking, pedestrian overpass, I had that meeting today. PE practice field, you'll see there's not enough room to put a full-size field. You can't put a soccer field or a baseball field or anything of that sort there. However, it's really in the interest of education to have a field adjacent to the building that supports the physical education program. It can be used as a practice field for athletics, but it really is to support physical education. It can also be used as part of the rec program for students that can work on smaller fields. You're going to see I'll talk about access for vehicles, buses, emergencies, exterior lighting, landscaping, so forth. And then we get into demolition and reuse of the current facility. And this proposal calls for reuse of the gym and locker rooms. Of all the parts of that building, it's in great shape, and we should continue to use it. There's good reasons for that. Talks about renovation of the cafeteria and kitchen into SAU offices. There's information in the ed specs that I got from the town administrator as to why it would really benefit the town operation if we were in a different place. And I think this is a real opportunity to put the school district in a better place, because we're cramped for space in some of the things that we do. So it would make more efficient for SAU and more efficient for the town. And then lastly, demolish the remainder of the building, developing new parking and tennis courts. The tennis courts, from my perspective, are first and foremost an educational place. You can't build another field, but you can add another component to the physical education program, something that can be a lifelong activity. So to me, that's a great thing. And you've added to the community. It can be open for community use. Who knows, down the road, maybe have a tennis team too. So that's part of the project here. What you see there is a drawing that shows the properties. The yellow is the main Carpenter property, but in the light green is another smaller piece that he owns further down Main Street. And then there's Perkins Insurance and the Walker property. Behind the Carpenter property is recreation land. And then across the street we have the current facility plus all the recreation fields. So it's a significant proposal that, again, goes on both sides of the street. We have, again, as I've already described, gotten DOE support for this kind of a concept as opposed to something else. We've done the geotechnical studies and the wetlands and civil engineering that say, yes, you can build on this land, and you can actually fit the school footprint on this land. And in the past, I know they've said, no, you can't do it. Well, you can't do it if your concept is a two-story building. I totally agree with that, and I think that's why you heard it several years ago. But if you make it a three-story building, you can. And so that's what's in this proposal. The remaining piece is the environmental assessment for the properties. I know they've completed Phase 1. I just haven't seen a Phase 1 report yet, and that is what would lead to some potential Phase 2. The total acreage I thought I would put up there is 51.22 for this whole site, so it's significant. Even the town property at the back of 5.5, that's recreation land. By doing this, it opens that up for recreational use. So maybe we can develop that into a not only area for the school but for the town to do recreation or nature study and things of that sort. We just can't build in there. That's all. But anyway, 51.22 acres would be the total amount. This is the site design, so you can see the footprint that is there. If I start at the bottom. At the bottom, you see all those white spaces. Sometimes people forget we're building behind houses, and that's what that is. Where it says pedestrian overpass and faculty and visitor parking, that's where the buildings are with the Walker property,
which is where that overpass is, the Walker property, and then Perkins, and then the main house there, the main facility there for the Carpenter property. So that would be all the faculty and visitor parking area. Because we have that ample parking and we have handicap parking, the overpass does not have to be handicap accessible. So that's what I was hoping. So that helps in the design of that. You see a roadway that goes all the way around the field and the building, and I'll talk about that more. The front, the main entrance you can see there in the center, and I refer to it as Main Street just so I give names to different sections of the building. And then it breaks out to the right into 3 different academic wings. All that Main Street, East Wing, South Wing, North Wing, it's all a 3-story building. Then to the left of Main Street, or where you have the big common areas, you have the gym and locker rooms. Behind it, you have the CAF, and then you have an auditorium, and behind that, music rooms, plus a lot of the service areas, maintenance and so forth. And that auditorium gym, in between those words, you see there's a very prominent public entrance for use of those facilities. There is, again, a PE practice field that is shown there, as I've already mentioned, and a maintenance shed to the rear. An overflow parking gravel lot is part of the scheme here that can be used not only for overflow, but for people who just come and they want to be close to and use the recreation land. High school. Let me deal with that first. Located in an area of the building separate from middle school. So as I talked about that 3-story building, it's on the first 2 floors. Middle school is on the 3rd floor. So I'm going to deal now with 1st and 2nd floor. We have our academic areas, all the other instructional areas. Common areas are located there, and other support areas. And let me speak to a couple that aren't there. You've got that are there. The cable channel studio. There's a proposal to incorporate in our space there a facility for cable studio production, so that it can be part of our curriculum, and we're obviously in the beginning stages of that, but we think it would be a terrific addition, not only for the school but also for the town. So, floor plans, and you got it in your packet, but they're so small you can't read. I've got larger copies for you here. This is the 1st floor of Main Street. The bottom is the entrance. That's the area that's closest to Main Street. And you come in, and on the right you have administrative offices. You keep on going. You have guidance and school to career to the right, and special ed to the left, and you have the nurse. So it really rounds out that central square, if you will, of where those are the places where much of the public comes to. Moving down the corridor to the right a little bit, you see we have space for OTPT. SRO is the school resource officer, and then the life skills classroom next to guidance. This is a stairwell. All these other stairwells, you see a stairwell there, there's another stair right here. Those go all the way up 3 floors. This stairwell here only goes up to the 2nd floor, and I'll show you why. It kind of makes a grander lobby, a nice lobby, but it also takes you up to the 2nd floor. And when you come up that stairwell, you have a multi-purpose room used for a variety of things, meetings, professional development. You can bring science classes in there, because sometimes they do experiments where you have to do it in hallways, and that's not the best place, so you put it in there. To the right, if you move to the right, you've got the Library Media Center, and all of it's encompassed there. Across the hall, you have art classrooms that share a pottery area, kiln, workroom storage, and the high school has 1 computer lab, which is located there as well. Again, you have stairwells here with bathrooms, and over here, another stairwell. This is distance learning. We hope to take advantage of opportunities in that, and yet we want to have a room that's suited for distance learning and things of that sort, and we felt near the library makes good sense. The other thing I would point to here that I'll point out later on is the ESOL, because ESOL is one of those programs that supports not only middle school and high school. Part of our layout here is if middle school students have to come down to the high school, and obviously they do, that it's done with the least amount of intrusion into the high school environment. And so middle school students can come down from this stairwell here from the 3rd floor and easily take care of ESOL needs and so forth. And similar, just walk down the hall for the library. So anyway, that's Main Street. Now we're moving out, come into the office and then move to the right, the east wing. And moving down there, you see first of all bathrooms. I want to point out this space and this space here. These are areas within the body of the building for a lot of the mechanical systems, the heat, the ventilation systems, other kind of systems that need some central, maybe plumbing, electrical, and in many buildings, what's going in there oftentimes ends up on the roof. I've been going back to the study that was done and the work that was done back in 2006, 2008, and they were proposing putting things up on the roof, which does two things. One, when you put it on the roof, it makes it a greater challenge to do maintenance, and it increases the likelihood of needing to do maintenance because it's exposed to all the elements in the weather. So if you can build a building and put all your mechanicals inside the building, you've really helped yourself a great deal. And so that's what we've done in this design. In this area right here, the concept of a locker area, or a common locker area, we think is an improvement over having lockers strung down a hallway. By having them not down the hallway, we've got narrower hallways, so we've saved ourselves on that. And the school, when it took a look at this, really likes the idea of an area where kids can more congregate and socialize and maybe even have meetings down there. You see the seating that's there. So that's that on each floor, the high school would have half the high school kids there would have lockers, and then on the next floor up have lockers. You see, let's see. Continuing down that hallway, these are just regular classrooms, a business classroom, special ed resource room, and here is a life science lab that is adjacent to this science prep area. When I get down into the hallway down here, you'll see there's another science classroom here. So we have science classrooms that are sharing this prep area. Second floor, something I didn't point out on the first floor is that we do have one elevator in the building. It's very centrally located and serves all three floors. Again, we've got mechanicals here. Moving down here, we've got the same arrangement of science classrooms. So that's an efficiency of stacking science classrooms. Over here is a chemistry lab, SPED and reading specialist in another classroom, and a stairwell. So that's, again, the east wing. Moving north, you get into that central area where the elevator is, and now you take a left. You have, on the right-hand side, classroom. The behavior specialist program would go here. An art class, it's really a combination art and tech ed classroom, and we decided to put it near tech ed as opposed to art. But it's an area where there's photography, graphics, and also CAD. Across the hall is the tech ed lab. We would call it the wood shop, which is what we typically use it for, and then a tech ed classroom with storage and so forth. We want it on the first floor. It doesn't show it here, but it will have access to the outside so we can easily bring in equipment and supplies and so forth. If you notice in all of these wings, the stairwell is down at the very end. Here, it shows a good reason why. On both the north wing and the south wing, there is the opportunity, the buildable land is there and the building's been designed, that future classrooms could be added. Now, for everything we know about the future, we've taken care of the future in this building. But heaven forbid, who knows, if push came to shove and you had to add space for more, it's very easy to do. They're going to take care of all of the mechanicals to come out to this area so that you wouldn't have to disrupt a stairwell at all. You could just easily build 2 classrooms, and really it's a 3-story structure, so you could put 6 classrooms on that end, you could put 6 on the other end, on the south wing. Easily take care of additions, where if you look at our current facility, you see we were challenged by the space to begin with, and the additions were just made things even more complicated, didn't help things. You move up to the second floor, and you have classroom, 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 classroom. And again, these are general classrooms for your English, your math, social studies, foreign language, and so forth. And then here is a teacher workroom. There's one teacher workroom for the high school. It would have, I think, 4 offices for department heads, as well as work areas and copy areas for teachers. Publishing room, generally aimed at yearbook, but who knows, school newspaper, publishing different things and having special equipment and printers to help make that happen. In the south wing, again, this is first floor. Here's your tech support area. So you've got a tech storage area, a large area for doing your repairs and maintenance, and then a small classroom that our goal is, and we're doing it now. We're doing it now. We have several kids now who are really talented that are helping us in the maintenance function. But the goal is have an area where we can train them, where they can have equipment that they can work on their own and not be out here in the regular maintenance area. Part of this, again, is how do we support a one-to-one learning environment, and so a tech support area of this size is what's really needed in order to do that. Down below it is the cable production studio. It does have a separate access from the outside, so that it has 24/7 access by whoever needs to be in there, and it would serve the community better in terms of producing shows, storage of equipment, but also it would be a learning lab for kids in our school, and we really think that's going to take off. Then across the hall, classrooms, resource room, life science room that I mentioned, and again, potential for future classrooms at the other end of that hallway. And then the second floor, same thing. Storage is always an issue. I think we've been very good about paying attention to the storage needs in the school. And then you've got specialist classrooms and another physical science classroom. So then you get to middle school. This is the third floor now. You've got located in a separate area. That was a priority. You got the academic areas. It warranted having its own computer lab, storage, team rooms. Instead of having a faculty workroom, the teachers who visited other buildings really liked the concept that each team would have its own team room. So a smaller space, but again, grade 6 teachers all shared that space and became a work area, collaboration area, and same for grade 7 and same for grade 8. Again, the idea of easy access to areas shared with the high school. Lastly, administratively, right now, a principal, assistant principal housed in the main office. With a building such as this, we felt we wanted to distribute that administration, so the principal is in the main office area, assistant principal is up on the 3rd floor. So here's Main Street to the 3rd floor, so now you're up above the library now on top of that. You're going to see 3 wings up here, each one for a different team, or if you will, each one for a different grade level. And so you have 3 classrooms, English, math, social studies. You have a science classroom for that team. You have a resource teacher for that team. The reading specialist serves all 3 grades would be here. The foreign language classroom that serves all 3 grades would be here, and the computer lab that serves all 3 grades would be here. So for all of those functions, student wouldn't need to be traveling elsewhere in the building. There is a teacher team room, and here, same concept as with the high school, a common area that can accommodate all the student lockers for that team and be kind of a good congregating area and easy to supervise and keeps your hallways pretty clear. Moving out here further, the east wing, you get book storage and bathrooms, and there's your elevator and a custodial area and some electrical data area. And here's where the assistant principal's office would be. On the lower floors, this wing extends out this way here, but that wing only comes up 2 stories. Talked with the architect, and this area will be built to code such that if we ever wanted to add a 3rd story, we could even do that. As we know, code changes, so who knows down the road. But in any case, it would be built such that it would support the additional weight of a 3rd story. And you've got science labs both sides and prep areas for both sides. So here's the north wing. So again, this is another team, another grade level team. You have the 3 classrooms, the science, the teacher team room, resource room. And then same for the south wing. And again, the commons area for the lockers, so no different. So then you get to the other end of the building. which are these larger spaces that are used by everybody. Again, there's a stairwell right here, so middle school students can come down this stairwell, and there they are, right at the cafeteria, right at the gymnasium, which is down here, and so forth. So the arrangement here has, this is an entrance from the back that I'll talk about more later. Cafeteria, kitchen, cafeteria storage, and then we put the consumer science classrooms here because we think there are real opportunities, if we do it right, of integrating culinary arts with what goes on in the cafeteria, and so that's been kind of a real creative piece that we've talked about. Up here is a service yard. You'll see more on that later, and so deliveries come in here, and they easily get put into the cafeteria. Deliveries also will get into maintenance, which is over near there. So here's the maintenance. There's a service yard again. There's kitchen, cafeteria, but now it comes in, there's shipping and receiving for the school. There's the area for boiler and electrical fire alarm systems, data systems, maintenance, recycling. It's all located in that area. Now moving further down, again, the maintenance was up here and the cafeteria over here. So now you've got a choral room. We really believe that we need to support that. I mean, I know we dropped it this year, but for different reasons. I think having a good facility and getting a program that's built from the ground up. The elementary school is doing a terrific job. We've started a club at the school that is going to support that, so we believe we should support it with space for chorus. Here's the music room, good-sized instrumental. You need to have practice areas, individual quiet spaces. There's a music office and a storage room here. And this music feeds right to the back of the stage, so it's easy to get in here. This is a ramp, I believe, so it makes it accessible. We've got toilets, stage storage, and a green room is like changing and preparation and so forth. So that's how music works. And then you get to an auditorium. Again, here's the music room. You get onto the stage. Not only do you have a green room there, you got another one over here. All your electrical stuff, your rigging here for all of the curtains and so forth. It's a 500-seat auditorium with access this way and this way, so it's fully accessible, a control room, and then there's the public entrance that I talked about earlier. Again, this is over, like, if you think of Carpenter's site, this is right behind where Carpenter's building is. And so there's a very public entrance that has a ticket booth there. You're going to see later there's a concession stand here. So for very public events, it's an area that works well. Bathrooms down here. The gymnasium locker room, that's on the other side of this public entrance. So there's the concession stand. You come in, you buy a ticket, you easily go into the gym. All the seating for public events is on this side of the building, of the facility. You got a full-size gym here that can be separated into two teaching stations for phys ed. There are team rooms, large and small, for boys' sports down here, athletic storage, and these should be always separate from PE locker rooms, and that's what all this stretch is here. PE locker rooms, office for staff, and bathrooms and showers and so forth. To move to the other end of the gym, same thing here are the bleachers. Getting to bathrooms is easy. There are bathrooms out here. There are bathrooms over here for public events. Down here are the girls' and large and small team rooms, trainer's room, weight room, athletic director offices down there. There's a wellness classroom over here. We think wellness should be integrated with what we're doing in physical education. And so it's a really nice compact arrangement. Out in this lobby area here, I didn't point them out earlier, there's a place for student displays, and then also a school store. So I'll get back to the site design. Site design should solve issues. Issues for us are parent drop-off, bus drop-off, and the congestion that occurs in the morning, the congestion that occurs in the evening. You see from the blue is a huge drop-off queue, if you will, for parents dropping students off. There's going to be plenty of room to pull over the side of the road to the sidewalk. Students get out, get in the sidewalk, and then walk into the backside and they come into the building through here. And then the bus drop-off, this is that other Carpenter property. You see that little cutout there and it goes there? That the buses come in here, swing around the front of the school, and then come out. And so the bus drop-off is at the front. So we've really separated those two traffic flows and given them plenty of room to not be out on the street or clogging up parking areas. Next, the blue is the faculty and visitor parking. They have the ability to come in two different ways. Well, to come in this way and go out this way. So there's plenty of room there for them. The pedestrian bridge, if you will, is right here. And so there's student parking across the street, and they come over that skywalk, if you will, and then make their way either into this entrance or into this entrance. Service deliveries. Again, it's a tight spot, but I think we have a good design for that. They come in down in here, and then what they do is they drive up into this as a turnaround, and then they back down here. And then make their deliveries, and then make their way out this way. They don't go all the way around the school. Over here, there is a right-of-way that Mr. Carpenter has that kind of cuts a little bit through the recreation land and takes you out to Packers Falls Road. And so our concept here is to put a gravel drive there that would only be used in emergencies. It would not be a typical thoroughfare for us, but it would be gated, and only if we really needed to use it, we would be using it. In terms of the existing facility, I think you have seen this before, I'm not sure, but that's the existing facility, and the color scheme says this, that we would keep the existing gymnasium and locker areas, that's all in yellow. We would renovate the cafeteria and kitchen and turn that into SAU offices, and everything that's in gray would be demolished. It turns into parking, tennis courts, and things of that sort. Next steps. Your consideration of this and approval of the design and ed specs. The design and ed specs go to the architect, and the civil engineer works on it some more. The engineer's consultant work on it some more, and they come up with pricing. They're well on their way with that already, actually. We need to get to purchase and sale agreements. We need cost estimates. We need a master's facilities plan, and then warrant articles for March of 2013. Any questions on that? Anything you want me to go back over? Or try to go as quickly but as thoroughly as I could.